4, 3. Hey everyone, and welcome to the third day of the Digital4Good Summit, sponsored by Work to Be Well. I'm Michaela Nichols, your Day 3 MC, and I'm so excited to help share the incredible work of this year's Digital4Good winners. But first, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My career began as a model at age 14 and has been growing ever since. I became a best-selling author of the book called Blatantly Honest, Normal Teen, Abnormal Life, where I talk about my own struggle with bullying, body image, and other issues that teens experience. This led me to do speaking engagements all across the country, develop children's coloring books, build a podcast called Blatantly Honest with Michaela Nichols, and I recently started a 501c3, work called the Blatantly Honest Foundation. Later on this year, my foundation is actually going to the moon. We're sending photos of bullied kids there so no one can look down at them again. But enough about me. Let me tell you about our final winners. Brother and sister duo, Charlie and Hannah Lucas, Brandon Griggs, and Sadie Keller. They'll be presenting to our panel of sharks. After each presentation, our shark panel will ask the students about their work and their future goals or innovations. Then, any of our sharks can bid to work with them on a one-on-one mentoring session later on this afternoon. As we kick off our event, make sure you're posting and sharing on social media all day today. Use the hashtag Digital4Good, and then tag the official hashtag ICANHELP accounts to get a shout out, be reposted, and even have the chance to win a prize. We'll also be sharing links to fun activities, backgrounds, and filters throughout the day. So keep your eye on it, and feel free to chime in and cheer on our student innovators as they present to the Shark Tank. But before we hear from those innovators, I am so honored to welcome today's opening keynote speaker, Joel Flory, the co-founder and CEO of VSCO. Joel leads the company on its mission to help everyone fall in love with their own creativity. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you so much for having me, Michaela, and thank you for everyone and all the attendees. I'm extremely excited to be here. I was able to attend yesterday and just had such a great time. I think I walked away yesterday and really excited for today, just being extremely inspired. When I think about myself at your all's age, I was so focused on myself. I was so focused on what I needed, what I wanted, and really walked through life with such a fixed mindset, kind of really fearful of failure, always trying to compete from a grade standpoint or from a sports standpoint. And not only did I see a bunch of youth with a growth mindset, learning from their past and from their mistakes and rolling with the punches and starting companies, which is extremely difficult, but even more so, something that I love of an outward mindset, really understanding the needs of others and wanting to actually devote their time and energy to building solutions to making an impact in people's lives. I walked away with and I'm truly inspired with such a hope for our future because of this. So I wanted to share a little bit about how I got started, just a little bit about VSCO and our mission and vision, but more importantly, kind of speaking to all the entrepreneurs out there, some lessons I've learned and some things I wish I would have known when I was starting out. So a little bit about me. My mom immigrated to the States when she was young, and my entire childhood, my mom was trying for my sister and I to get us to see the world through other people's eyes. It was something extremely important to her, and I did not really appreciate it as much as I should have then, and I didn't fully understand it. And so a few different ways in the Bay Area of going out to eat and going into different communities around connecting with others and eating. But most importantly, my mom would take us to the Oakland Museum of California and other art galleries and places or museums around the Bay Area. And my mom would always ask me this question. She's like, what is this person trying to tell you about their world, their experience, what they're seeing? And it was always met with this, what's the world like through their eyes? And so it was with this vision that we started VSCO. It was really this vision to create a world in which differences are celebrated, to equip people with tools and a space where they can share who they are, where they can be who they really are, not so much how they want the world to see them, but how they share how they see the world. And it's through this focus of this creating this space where you can be you, and where this importance of like being creative and expression and being, I say a lot of times, like 3 things. I always want to be known, I want to belong, and I want to be taken care of. And I think it's such a critical piece for all of you in everything that you're working on, not only for the solution that you're building for others to be thinking about this, but also about how you go about it. The people you work with, the people that are engaging with your company or with your nonprofit. Are they walking away? Do they feel like they are seen? Do they feel like they belong and are a part of something? Do they feel taken care of? And this really is and embodies that outward mindset. Our focus for the future at VSCO is really just around this. It always has been about, as VSCO, supporting creators, but we want to double down on that. We want to think well beyond just equipping people with tools or creating a space. How do we think about this from everything that we've architected from the beginning around no likes or no comments in the community, around creating a space where creativity is about mindfulness and kind of investing in yourself and in your well-being. So our future will be deeply focused around creating these spaces, creating these experiences where people feel supported. What we're also important, and something I encourage each and every one of you around, is focusing on helping creators support other creators. You can think about this in your career as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as a CEO. How are you supporting others and peers in your space? And I think for us, this is something that I see a lot from all of you and from each of your presentations and what you're working on, that this is already the core foundation of what you're building. But I just encourage you to continue to do that. And at VSCO, we want to be thinking about ways in which those differences that we have, that we're celebrating, of how we're sharing of how we see the world, are able to connect with people from all over the place, so that it's not just about whatever's popular or kind of current pop culture that's kind of driving the tone of what's acceptable or normal. And finally, and I think even most importantly, is I want to create a future within VSCO in which creators are supporting themselves. Our mission is to help everybody fall in love with their own creativity. And as I think about that, I hope each and every one of you walk away, both in an experience with me or with VSCO and using it, that you walk away saying, I'm worth investing in and in sharing my voice. It matters. People do want to hear it. They care about it. And so with that, we want to continue to build ways that people feel motivated and supported, guided. And that's really critical to us in the future at VSCO. So speaking about creators taking care of themselves, I was a professional photographer for a decade, but even thinking about, we're all creators in what we're making and how we're working. And I think for each of you, as you are building a company and starting off, this is some of the advice I wish I would have had, and I wish I would have stuck with from the beginning, but that I've learned over the years. And I already said this, but first and foremost, you have to take care of yourself. I read this great book called Essentialism by Greg McCowan, and really on trying to focus on what matters most in my life and where to put my priorities. And I was always thinking about and running the business, the job that needed to be done, someone that needed to be hired, a problem that needed to be solved, something we needed to build. But I was forgetting to take care of myself. Everything from sleep and diet and exercise. I was always the one left out. And I think it was such a critical piece that I made that focus, that first and foremost, you have to put on your own oxygen mask and take care of yourself. So many of the presenters that we talked about are around mental health and well-being. And I think this is something so critical for you to invest in. Once you've taken care of yourself, I then think it's something really critical to take care of your loved ones and those that are close to you, to really feel that those that matter most in your life, they feel seen, taken care of, and supported. And once you've taken care of yourself and you've taken care of your loved ones, then you can show up to give your best to others, to give your best to your business, to your company, to your employees. And it's that flipping of priority. I was always putting VSCO first, and it was myself and my family and loved ones that were missing out. That a decade now into running this business, I wish I would have gotten to this understanding a lot earlier. The second thing that I've learned over time that I think is really critical is that it's really important to surround yourself with people that give you energy versus people that take energy away from you. And I think this is something that's so critical, maybe at the end of a day, end of a month or something, to be reflective and think about, when were those moments when I was at my best? Or when was I in a flow state? Who was it around me that was supporting me, that was kind of really propelling me forward? And I think this is such a critical piece that you could really kind of dive into, is around making sure that you also, I think people that are great at giving energy also want to be around people that are giving them energy. So it kind of goes both ways. Both surround yourself with people that are giving energy and not taking it, but also make sure that you're doing the same for them. The third thing that I've learned over time, and I think this is something really critical in particular for being an entrepreneur and starting something, but for life in general. So I think of 3 concentric circles, with the inner circle being the state of comfort. This could be your home. This could be with family and loved ones. When you feel safe and sound and secure, know what that is. Learn it, love it, invest in it, and make sure that you have it in your life. But I want to encourage you not to spend most of your working time in that state of comfort. The next circle kind of around this, if you can think of like a small circle, larger, and then larger, is this state of discomfort. This is where you don't have all the answers. You're not always the expert. You are challenging yourself, and you're always learning something new. This is such a critical state to kind of live and operate in. It's surrounding yourself with diverse perspectives. As you're building a team, don't think about a culture fit who can kind of fit the mold and kind of fit into everything else that's going on within your company. Who's a culture add? Who's going to shift and change the culture so that tomorrow is better than today? And this is such a critical piece with not just work, but it's in life in general. Are you surrounding yourself with people that challenge you in a good way, that have different perspectives than you, and that you're able to debate with in a really healthy manner? And there's this third concentric circle that's chaos. And when you do, because you're going to have to go out into a state of chaos at point, think about this like you're out at space and you open that chamber and you have a lifeline of oxygen and you know you have 5 minutes to go out and to get back in. It's not a state to live in, and you need to know where your home is, where your state of comfort is, where to go back to so that you don't get stuck there. It is a lonely job leading a company, and especially at being a CEO. It's extremely hard. There's high highs and low lows. And this is why, if you kind of think back upon all of these other pieces of advice around people that give you energy versus take it, and taking care of yourself first, it's so critical for those moments, so that when you're in those moments of chaos, because they will happen, there's the things that you cannot control that will come up on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, you never know, that you feel prepared and equipped to lead through those moments, but to also bring you and your company and everyone that you're working with back into a state where they're able to be productive. The last thing that I would want to leave you with to think about as you're building a company is to think about your mission and your vision and your values, which I think is really critical. If you haven't thought about this or how to form them, there's a great book by Patrick Lencioni called The Advantage that kind of walks through this process. But as you think about these mission, vision, and values, I think something that I did not necessarily put in practice right away, but I think is so critical, is to think about how they align with your business model. Now, at VSCO, we were always talking about 4 things. We wanted to make sure that everything that we did as a business, that the creator always won, that the community always wins, that whoever's paying us wins, and that VSCO wins. And that every business idea that we had was, if we win together. Now, this was critical in shaping the way that we built our business, the things that we did build, but more importantly, that we didn't build. And I encourage you to think about this, because at times there's great intent that you have when you're building something when it starts out. But as a business needs scale, as the business scales, it's usually in that misalignment of mission, vision, and values and the actual business itself where things start to go wrong. And they don't always start with bad intent, but the practice hasn't been put in place to kind of build a structure and foundation for you to build a healthy, scalable business. And this is so critical, because if each and every one of you are having this outward mindset in which you're thinking about the needs of others, and in particular the needs of the people that you're serving through what you're building, if you think about if they win, you win, and if you win, they win, that is a fair and equitable world in which we can build a better place, which is exactly why we're all here. That's why I'm excited to hear from Hannah, Sadie, and today, and Brandon around their business ideas and how they're moving this forward. So again, I'm super excited to be here with each and every one of you. Definitely keep bringing the energy. I'm excited to see what you all are passionate about. And there is one thing that I did want to let you all know, is that as a gift from VSCO to each and every one of you, we're gifting a 1-year VSCO membership to every registered attendee. And so more information will come from Digital4Good on how to redeem that. But just wanted to pass that along to you, and hopefully you find it's worth investing in yourself around creating and expressing yourself and being who you are. Thanks.
Wow, Joel, that was so sweet of you. I'm sure everyone is going to be so excited. And thank you for those wonderful, inspiring words of welcome to begin day 3 of the summit. We've just shared a link to our custom Digital for Good Instagram filters in the chat. So please have fun with them. And don't forget to tag ICANHELP and Digital for Good in your post. You can even take photos in our digital photo booth and add the filters on top. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our first student innovators, Charlie and Hannah Lucas. Charlie and Hannah Lucas created the NotOK app, a digital panic button that takes the guesswork out of asking for help when you're feeling vulnerable. This brother and sister duo is a true powerhouse, and they've been recognized internationally for their work. Welcome, Hannah.
Hi, thank you for having me. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Hannah, and I'm the co-creator of the NotOK app. Our mission is to make it easier for people to ask for help when they are not okay. Mental illness is a massive problem. It's estimated that 1.1 billion people worldwide have a mental illness or substance abuse disorder as of 2016. They struggle quietly with loneliness, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and more. And our generation, Gen Z, is the loneliest generation and claims to be the worst in health compared to older generations. Loneliness cuts life expectancy by about the same amount as smoking 15 cigarettes a day and more than obesity. It's also associated with a greater risk of heart disease, depression, anxiety, and dementia. Okay, so now that we understand how detrimental loneliness can be, how do we fix it? Well, it's simple. We instantly connect you to your trusted contacts, your support group, with the press of a button. The NotOK app is a digital panic button that, when pressed, sends a text message to the user's up to 5 pre-selected trusted contacts, alerting them that the user is not okay and needs help, along with the user's GPS location and directions in case the trusted contacts need to physically go get the user. These trusted contacts can be, honestly, anyone you trust, from family, friends, a therapist, anyone you consider a support group or a safe space. With over 115,000 downloads and over 80,000 button presses, the NotOK app is needed now more than ever before, especially with the pandemic. But hey, don't take my word for it. Look at the evidence. According to Dr. Anis Abi Karaman, the NotOK app is a fast and simple way to reach out for support and help. Anyone struggling with anxiety, depression, or drug and alcohol abuse should download it and use it. And here are a few of our reviews. Along with these reviews, we've been getting amazing DMs from people just sharing their stories, and we've heard so many stories like this. And here's how you can further support us. You can always download and join our NotOK group. Make sure to give us a 5-star rating, and you can also be part of our story by following us on social media, or strengthen your own community by adding your own support group to the NotOK app, and make sure to donate. Thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Hannah. What a powerful and simple solution to reaching out when you need support. We've included a link to the app in the chat for anyone who would like to learn more and download it. All right, now it's time to hear from our panel of sharks. Today, we're joined by Tony Waitley, podcaster and entrepreneur, and side hustle millionaire, Alan Sheen, product and UX designer at Riot Games, Joel Flory, co-founder and CEO of VSCO, and Shreya Venkat, former Digital for Good winner and co-founder of Nest for Us. Let's begin with Joel. What do you think? Oh, Tony, what do you think of the NotOK app?
I love the simplicity of it, Michaela. Thank you for that. And Hannah, it's a really powerful thing that you put out there. One of the questions I would like to start off with the shark panel here is that, what was the inspiration of the story behind this idea?
Sure. Personally, I struggled really badly with depression, anxiety, and eating disorders. When I was a freshman in high school, I had just been diagnosed with a chronic illness called POTS. It just basically causes me to pass out. And because of this, I spiraled really, really badly. I was stuck in a tunnel and I didn't see the light at the end. I had a suicide attempt, but luckily my mom saved me that night. And that's when I knew immediately I need a tool that I could not only use for my chronic illness, but for my mental illness as well. I wanted to take my independence back.
Thank you for sharing that. That's very powerful. Shreya, let's give some questions to Hannah.
Yeah, no, Hannah, this is so amazing. I love, just like Mr. Cheney was saying, how simple it is. Just sending a simple text message, especially now with our generation. That's really all it takes to be able to connect with someone on a more meaningful level. So my one question was, in terms of your future plans, just where are you looking to take this app in terms, I know you were saying you have a bunch of downloads and you're endorsed by a bunch of amazing organizations. But I was wondering, personally, where do you see the NotOK app going in the future?
Right now, we're just looking at global expansion. We recently launched an update where we partnered with the Crisis Text Line and Mental Health America. And we also expanded to the United Kingdom and Canada. So now we're just looking at expanding to more countries.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan from Riot Games, what do you have for her?
Hey there, Hannah. How's it going?
Okay.
So a question I had for you was, when you look at kind of all the challenges that you're facing with expansion and reach and so forth, what is the one thing you would say is the biggest blocker to you achieving the goals you want for your app right now?
As of right now, the biggest obstacle that I've found is getting funding being my age. The NotOK app is completely free. We wanted everyone to have access to this free resource. But because it is free, it has been difficult to find funding, especially since I started it when I was 15. It launched when I was 16. And adults in the mental health community, they see this resource, they say, wow, this is an incredible resource. Then they find out the kids who made the resource and they say, oh, that's just for kids, even though it's for everyone. So that's just been a difficult obstacle to try to break through.
Thanks for that.
Joel, how about you?
I have a ton of questions, one of which Alan just asked, but first off, I just want to say, the presentation was great. I think your personal story on why you're doing this is extremely powerful. And I think to lead with that and to kind of really drive that home, I think brings so much more power to your story and what you're building. And I think as someone, as a family member from a suicide perspective, this is such an important cause. And so I just, thank you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you've built this, and I'm excited for the millions of lives that this can impact. I would ask you, through building this, what has been the hardest thing to overcome personally through kind of building an app or starting a company that you've gone through?
Honestly, for me, my personality, I never really thought about starting a company as a difficult thing. It was just something that I've always wanted to do. I sat down and I said, let's do it. But my real challenge came when it was time for me to share my story, and overcoming the stigma surrounding mental health, especially as a Black woman in America. It was really, really difficult for me to be okay with my journey.
It's very powerful.
Thank you.
Hannah, I got a question also. We're going to keep this going a little bit longer here. On your slide, you said that the Gen Z is the loneliest generation. I've never heard that. Could you educate us on why you believe that to be true?
Sure. We grew up around technology. We really did grow up in this digital age, and we all have social media, but it's supposed to connect us. However, for my generation specifically, we try so hard to be perfect. And on social media, you see all of these perfect people. They're all using filters, or they go get surgeries or whatever, but you see their lives and you think it's so perfect. And because you want to be perfect too, you don't be honest with anyone else in your support group, your friends. You want everyone to think that you're this perfect person. And I think that my generation is obsessed with that flawless illusion.
Thank you for that. That's powerful. Yeah, that's another thing that could be added to the story there. Who else has got a question for Hannah? Shreya.
Yeah, so I was wondering, the NotOK app, I think that's a very, very interesting name. And I wanted to hear a little bit about maybe the story behind why you decided to pick NotOK to be the name of your app.
That's an interesting story, actually. Me and my brother, we sat down and we were looking so hard for all these names. And of course, when you're brainstorming for names, you can't pick the perfect name. It's going to come to you at a random moment in time. And that moment came when I was feeling really, really dizzy one day. I was just struggling with my symptoms really badly. My mom looked at me and she was like, Hannah, are you okay? I was obviously not doing good. And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm doing great. And she was like, Hannah, you're not okay. I was like, oh, I like that. And we went with it.
Yeah, no, I like how transparent that name is. It's really showing there's no like filter behind it. There's no, oh yeah, no, I'll be fine. It's more of like, oh, I'm accepting the fact that I'm not okay and I'm taking the initiative and go reach out to people that can help me. So I think that when you tell that story of how you thought of it, it actually puts it into perspective and kind of gives something that people can relate to a lot, right? Saying that you're not okay and accepting that fact and then going and getting that help. So
Yeah.
very, very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other follow-up questions, Sharks?
I was curious from out to Alan's question around what you need. I'm thinking about from like a team perspective or a building perspective. Is it funding to hire people to create new features that don't exist already? Like, how would you apply for donations or funds to kind of help grow the business?
Definitely. So the first two things that I would definitely do without, like hands down, are definitely hire an executive director that can essentially be the face of funding, so that they can look for grants and whatnot and apply for more funding aspects. And then I would also hire a social media director to help us kind of piece apart that, because I love doing stuff for NotOK. However, I hate social media. I hate using it. It's a big insecurity for me, because even though I've overcome the stigma and telling my story, I'm still struggling when it comes to social media, but I'm working on it. So until I get A-OK in that area, I definitely want to hire a social media director. Also, I would love to eventually get a youth board together, because I like the way my generation thinks. I think we have amazing ideas. I think I have amazing ideas and my brother has amazing ideas, but I really want to diversify all of our ideas to make NotOK the very best it can be so that everyone can get help.
Excellent. Well, now we're going to go into the battle round with the Sharks, and each of us is going to give you reasons, Hannah, why you would like to work with us, but you only get to select one for the conversations after this. So let's start with the ladies first. Shreya, why would Hannah like to work with you?
Yeah, so Hannah, I relate to you on one. I think one of the biggest advantages I have over the other sharks right now is my age, considering I'm only 18 years old. So I have been in your shoes. I started my own nonprofit when I was 13. So I've gone through the whole process of building something from scratch, figuring out how to fund things, figuring out how to build a youth. You were talking about your youth board idea, and I've already been working with a bunch of youth organizations and kind of getting to know how to approach these ideas from that youth standpoint and making sure that youth are given the voices that they deserve. And so I feel like that I could provide that advice from a youth perspective, from a Gen Z perspective, and I could give you some of the fresh ideas that you're looking for in terms of that. So hopefully you pick me.
Ooh, that's a good one. Joel, what's your pitch here?
So I'm going to say my pitch, but I'm also going to offer up my pitch even if you don't go with me. So I'll throw that there. May's Mental Health Awareness Month, and yesterday from working with Alif on her project that's from selecting at VSCO. It's a big month for us and a lot of work that we do around mental health and the positive impact that creativity has on being who you are. And so I would love, this is the work that we do already. So getting to work with you and with our team at VSCO around that would be extremely exciting for me. But I offer that up even if you don't go with me. And I would just say from that end of having started a business, I think a lot of times knowing the obstacles to overcome or the roadblocks to kind of miss. And I'd encourage you, because I believe your story, you telling it, is actually the most powerful thing for you fundraising and for you growing this business. So I'm here to support either way, but I would absolutely love to work with you.
I love it. I love it. Alan, let's hear it.
Hey there. So I'm not Gen Z, unfortunately. I am not part of what Sharia could offer you, but one thing I do have access to is a huge base of people who are part of that demographic in terms of Riot Games' population. A lot of the stuff you talk about with people expressing that, hey, they're not okay, we experience and see that actually in the playing styles of people playing online in our games, and people look out and for each other, and they reach out for each other for help, and they do it through our games. And I feel like there's some intersection of stuff that we've learned that I could share back to you and your application to make it better. And I would love for a chance to try to figure out how that could work.
Good stuff. Well, Hannah, my background is that I was actually terrified of speaking and being on camera, and I grew up with bullies in childhood, and I didn't start doing what I'm doing nowadays until 3 years ago. So I could actually teach you how to overcome that, find your voice, stand in front of stages with thousands of people, build an audience. That's what I do best nowadays. I had to overcome that fear by putting my purpose ahead of my fear. So with that in mind, Hannah, you've got a tough decision to make. Which shark are you going to select now?
Ooh. Tough decision. Okay. Specifically, just because May is Mental Health Awareness Month and it is coming up fast, I think I'm gonna go with Joel.
Joel takes this first round. Congrats, Joel.
Extremely excited to work with you, Hannah. And your brother. Look forward to meeting too.
Well, let's go back to Michaela. Michaela, take it on.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. All right. Well, Hannah has chosen to meet with Joel during the post-show mentoring session. Well done. We'll all be watching to see what you do next. So I wanted to give a quick shout out to Stacy Jefferson and Ryan Kutna on YouTube. Ryan, I am so sorry if I just butchered your name. And hey to Linda Edwards on Twitter. So next up, we have Sadie Keller. She is a childhood cancer survivor who uses her digital platform to advocate for childhood cancer patients and supports patients and their families through the Sadie Keller Foundation. Welcome, Sadie. We are so excited to hear more about your foundation.
I'm muted. Sorry, I was muted. Well, I'm just so excited to be talking with all of you today about my foundation, the Sadie Keller Foundation for Childhood Cancer. And before I get started, I would love for y'all to check us out on social media, and also check us out. Our website is sadiekellerfoundation.org. So the Sadie Keller Foundation first started whenever I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia whenever I was 7 and in the 2nd grade. Going through cancer as a child was so hard and scary, and I went through some really hard and tough times. I went through 2.5 years of chemotherapy treatment, and because of my chemotherapy, I had very rare side effects. But during my treatment, I wanted to help all the other kids like me battling childhood cancer because I knew what it was like. So I started the Sadie Keller Foundation. And so what do we do at the Sadie Keller Foundation? Well, with the Sadie Keller Foundation, we do 3 main things. The first one is Sadie Sleigh. And Sadie Sleigh is a toy drive that I do every year for kids fighting childhood cancer in the hospital on Christmas. And over the past 6 years, I've collected and donated over 60,000 toys to kids all across America. And next is milestone gifts. And a milestone gift is whenever a childhood cancer fighter reaches a milestone in their treatment, we get them a really awesome gift that they have wanted. So in this picture, you can see we've sent a PS4, we've sent Xboxes, dollhouses, anything that the kids want. And we've sent over 1,000 milestone gifts so far. And lastly is national impact and awareness. And I wanted this to become a part of the Sadie Keller Foundation because I don't know if y'all knew this, but out of billions of dollars that goes to cancer research, only 4% of that goes to childhood cancer research, which is not enough because kids are the future, and without us, there is no future. And so that's why I wanted lobbying, national impact and awareness to become a part of the Sadie Keller Foundation to help benefit childhood cancer. And I've even teamed up with Congressman Michael McCall, and we've become great friends over the years to help fight for childhood cancer. And here are some of my success stories. So the first one is I had the incredible opportunity to be next to the president's side as the STAR Act, which was a bill I helped lobby for, was passed into law. And it was something that I will never, ever forget. And last year, I released my first book called Better Angels, which is about my journey through cancer as a child. And we've sold over 15,000 copies of Better Angels. And the best part about Better Angels is all the proceeds of the book go to childhood cancer research. And how can people help? So some easy ways that people can help is posting or sharing something about childhood cancer on social media. And you can find some great things to share on Sadie Keller Foundation on Instagram and Facebook. So make sure to check us out. Also, you can help a childhood cancer organization by volunteering. You could host a fundraiser, or just donating to a childhood cancer organization of your choice are some great ways to help. And lastly, what's next? So I would love for my own personal social media to grow. I want to possibly on Instagram go from 2,700 followers to maybe 5,000. And on TikTok, maybe go from 400 followers to maybe 1,000 if that's possible. And so that more people can hear my mission. And also last year, I visited Botswana, Africa, and visited the kids going through childhood cancer. And in America, we have come so far with childhood cancer treatment, but in Africa, they are just starting. In America, 8 out of 10 kids with childhood cancer survive, but in Africa, 9 out of 10 kids with childhood cancer die. So I would love to take my mission globally and not only help the kids in America, but also help the kids fighting cancer in Africa. And so now you all know a little bit about the Sadie Keller Foundation and about my story. I want to thank you all so much for listening to me and hearing about what we do. And I'm so grateful to have had this opportunity to speak with all of you today. Thank you all so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Sadie. I literally got chills at one point. That was absolutely incredible. Your work to fundraise, advocate for, and support cancer patients is so incredible. For anyone who would like to learn more, check out the link we've included in the chat. All right, so let's hear from our panel of sharks. Tony, why don't you start us off?
Sadie, thank you for that presentation. Incredible, really background story. And you know, you are very well spoken. And I have to say, like, I would have never been able to do that at your age. I'm just really impressed by how you really delivered that presentation. There's a lot of passion behind it too, obviously. But just with that, let's get some questions from our fellow sharks. Let's start with Alan this time. Alan, what do you have for Sadie?
Hey there. Thanks for sharing that. That was, I'll have to echo, that was super powerful. And I'm thank you for the gift of sharing that with the rest of us. It's very enlightening and eye-opening. The question I have for you is kind of a hypothetical question. So let's say you had the ability to hire, bring on, or have somebody mentor you from anybody in history, a role model of some kind. Who would that be? And tell me why you would want that person helping you out.
Well, that is a very hard question. I have so many people who I look up to and that inspire me so much. I'm trying to think about some people who have inspired me in history and just in general. I think it may have to be probably, I've been on her show. Her name is Kelly Clarkson. She inspires me so much. I love her music so much. I just think she is so incredible, and I love everything that she does. And on her show, how she helps people with foundations and what they're trying to do for the world. So I think I look up to her so much, and I would love to maybe meet her one day, or I've been on her show, like I said, but I just think everything that she does is amazing, and I love her.
Thanks for
Excellent.
that.
That's good stuff. Thank you. Shreya, how about yourself?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Sadie, for sharing your story. Literally, just having that like I could hear the passion coming from your delivery of how you kind of told your story and said all of how you're impacting other kids just like you. And so I think that's so inspiring. My question, I know you were saying one of your future goals was to expand your social media presence. So I was wondering what currently has been one of the biggest challenges you've faced on getting the word out there about the cause that you're trying to fight for, or just the work that the Sadie Keller Foundation is doing? And then how do you think, or what do you think would help you the most if you were to be paired with any of us?
Yeah, so I've always just struggled with social media in general, just keeping on posting about what I am doing. I always forget to post stuff. I'm not very good at being consistent on social media. So that's one reason that why I brought that up. But something that has been hard for me is it's just hard in general to talk about some hard times that I went through. But really, I always try to remember that it's really important, because what I've been through and what my friends have been through, who I know who have had childhood cancer, is very important because it makes a really big impact. And I think that what would help me is probably just making an idea about what I could do, what I could post. I also want help on how to balance my personal life and also the Sadie Keller Foundation and what I'm doing with that. I would love help with that a lot, because I do struggle sometimes with figuring out oh, here I am playing with my dog. Do I post this first? Do I post about how we just sent this milestone gift? Like, I struggle with that. So I would love a plan from one of you, maybe to just think about what I could post, what can make a big impact for childhood cancer awareness as well, would be great.
Yeah, no, that's so amazing. And I definitely feel like any of us can help you with that. And just you standing here today and, or I guess sitting on your Zoom screen and sharing your story with the world is just one step closer to inspiring so many other people to share their own stories, right? And connect people. And so I thank you again so much for sharing your story. And I look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Joel, let's hear from you. You're on mute, brother.
Thank you for that. Thanks. I have to say, it was extremely powerful. And I think echo what everyone else has said, like, don't shy away from being who you are. Don't focus on being who others think you need to be. You have a really powerful message. And I guess my question is, who do you need to reach? Like, when you talk about child cancer awareness, who's not aware? Or is this more of a lack of prioritization? They're aware, but they're not prioritizing it. Is this from a politician standpoint? Is this from a drug company standpoint? From a hospital? It's like, whose door do we need to go knock on is basically what I'm asking to, like, go make some changes.
Yeah. So that's a great question. So really who I want to hear about childhood cancer is as many people as possible, because here's kind of how it works. It's if I tell someone about childhood cancer and about my story and they are touched in a way, they'll tell their family, and then their family might hear that, and then they'll tell other people. And then it just keeps on going and going and going until a bunch of people know about childhood cancer. And if they want to help in some way, they can maybe share posts on social media about it, which then more people help out. They can also donate to foundations, which helps so much with childhood cancer and what they do. And so really it's everybody helps, and whoever finds out about childhood cancer, it helps in any way it can. So really, I'm trying to just reach as many people as possible and spread the word about childhood cancer.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Just real quick, while you're watching this from your YouTube stream, We have sharks up here that are willing to take on some questions as we're trying to sort out some technical things in the background. So if you've got questions for any of the sharks or even Sadie, just go ahead and put those into the YouTube comments and we'll get those relayed to us and we'll answer those things live for you. With that in mind, let me give you a response here, a question as well, Kate. I love that you went to Africa. I got to spend several months working in Africa and Angola and Republic of Congo. And I'll tell you, that was a life-changing experience. It's not some place that I would ever think about spending a dime for vacation, but when I was going there, it really became one of the most valuable visits I've ever seen, because we truly live in a beautiful country here in the United States, and we take a lot of things for granted. But when you go to visit those kind of countries and you understand that it's just not the same in the rest of the world, and it gives you a completely different perspective on life. And I know that you saw that. I saw that in the photos. I could hear it in your voice when you started to talk about those kids. And what was it that you learned from being in Africa and being in that scene for yourself?
Yeah, well, I've lived in America my whole life, so I've never even thought about what it's like in other countries until I went there. And when it was just crazy, because it was crazy to think about the differences. They were in a tiny little rooms and they were all together. Some mattresses were on the floor, and I had to wear masks even when I went outside. And I could not be around other people whenever I was going through childhood cancer. And so it was so crazy just seeing the differences. And I think, now I know why that's such a big need for childhood cancer in Africa. And it's just like, it was crazy to see just all of the differences, just like how the buildings are different, and just walking down the street is different. It was eye-opening for me to see, and especially for the kids going through childhood cancer. But what really made it so special was we had something in common. Even though we were thousands of miles away from each other, we had something in common. We both were survivors of childhood cancer. Maybe they were going through leukemia and I'm a survivor of it. And we had that special bond with each other, and that was so special to me. And one day I really hope I can go back and help out the kids there and see them again. It was just so amazing.
Love that sharing. One of the biggest perspectives I would share with this audience is that I saw that there was a overwhelming sense of happiness in poverty, because we see a lot of the videos and things like that from our own country, and they always show the worst situations. And I get that those exist in the world, but what I saw is that the humans, regardless of the country or regardless of the financial state they are in, are resilient, and they can be very happy. They have lives. They're telling jokes. They're so full of energy, and that's what I took away from it. I was like, you know what, money and happiness are not even related anymore. I have a completely different perspective about that, and that's one of the biggest perspective shifts I gained from being there for several months. So, thank you, Sadie. Who else has a question for Sadie? Shreya, let's hit you.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a lighter question, just kind of a little bit more on like, what has been your favorite event or favorite part of creating the Sadie Keller Foundation? I know everyone who creates something always has that one thing that's really special to their heart. So I just want to know, is there like a story behind any specific part of the Sadie Keller Foundation that you hold really close to your heart?
Yeah, well, always it's seeing the pictures of milestone gifts or Sadie Slay. It always just makes me feel so good. And especially whenever I was going through treatment and I was having a hard time, that's what really would make me happy again. And that's what would make me smile. And so me being able to help other people is something that helps me so much. If I'm going through a hard time or if I'm struggling in any way, that's what makes me so happy. And that's why I love the Sadie Keller Foundation and what we do. We do an event each year. It's called our annual Yellow Ball. And I love it so much. It's so much fun. We invite childhood cancer fighters and survivors there. We all have such a good time. Last year, unfortunately, because of COVID, we were not able to have our Yellow Ball. But we're going to do it this year, and it's going to be amazing. And I love doing it so much. It's so much fun, and I'm looking forward to it.
That's really awesome. I love how when you're like giving back to them, you feel good as well. So you're kind of getting the effects of the kindness that you're spreading to others, and it's impacting you as well. And it's just making that kindness ripple go around, and just circulating positivity around. So that is just so inspiring, and keep up the great work.
Thank you.
All right. Who else has a question while we're waiting on our third winner to log in there? Alan, what do you got?
Yeah. So I'm still feeling the effects of how personal this story is, because there's I have a personal connection to having experienced some of this myself, as a youth. And so apologies for 1 second here while I get over that. But what I went through isn't comparable to you, but what helped me get through it was a team of people to help me drive through my struggles and so forth. And I think I'd love to know about you and with your organization that you've got to this point. Who has been the team that's helped you build it to where it is right now? And I think just to sort of carry on the question that I asked earlier is like, what other people would you want to be part of Team Sadie, moving forward to help you grow whatever it is that you want your organization to become?
Yeah, well, always the most important people and the people who have helped me so much in everything that I've been doing and helping me create the Sadie Keller Foundation is my family. I could not have done this without them. I'm so grateful for them. Everything that they have done for me over the years, being there for me whenever I was struggling in the hospital, or and just being with me now, and just getting me to where I am, and any dream that I had, they were there to help me achieve that dream, which was always so special to me. And so anything that I do, I love to have them there with me and help me get through it and do it. They're definitely the most important people, and always the people who have helped me through everything, and they're always there to just support me in any way.
Well said. Well said. Well, we got a couple of questions that came in from the YouTube channel. I'm going to read these to the Sharks with some quick answers here. So one of the questions, Sharks, from a guest on YouTube was, what do you do when you are overwhelmed? Let's start with you, Shreya.
Yeah, so as you all know, I am currently a college freshman. So I am balancing my school with my nonprofit, I play 2 sports. I do travel soccer and I do martial arts. I'm a 3rd-degree black belt assistant instructor. So I have a lot on my plate, but the main thing that really drives me and helps me balance all of these different things is the passion behind it. I mean, I'm truly passionate about everything that I do, and I think that's the single most important thing whenever you decide to do something, whatever it might be. It could be school, it could be personal, it could be career-based. You need to have the passion behind it, and I think that's really what helps me get out, even when I'm really feeling really stressed and all of these things are coming around, is, oh, I'm not doing this just for me. I'm helping other people and I'm doing something for other people. And that passion and that motivation to keep helping other people is really what kind of takes me out of that whole overwhelming circle. Because of course, there's going to be days where you're like, oh my God, this is so much work. But at the same time, you have to think what's beyond that moment. Once you push forward, the results that you're going to get are going to be so fulfilling and so worthwhile. And so just pushing past that is really what motivates me to keep going.
All right. We'll get a quick answer out of you, Alan and Joel, then we'll move on to the Shark round. So Alan, what do you do for overwhelm?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just +1 kind of the idea of surrounding yourself with, projects or things that you feel passionate about. And then even when it gets chaotic, then, it helps you get through those moments. But I think related to that is that you need to be okay with just sometimes letting things drop. Things just fall down, and frankly, they'll be there again the next day that you can pick back up again. And no worries. Like, I don't think I can recall something that really is so dire that, I have to do this thing right this minute because it's going to basically life and death kind of situation. Like, there's always time to pick stuff back up again. So you got to give yourself some space, to feel like, hey, it's okay to let some things drop, and you can apologize the next day and move on and move forward.
I love it. Joel, what is your insight on this?
It's either a walk with my family. I think just the laughter and joy of kids, not that you have as having kids, or going for a run or playing soccer. I mean, I think that's physical, like just getting in that flow state and not thinking is everything for me. So that's what I would say.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So we're going to get into the shark battle round, Sadie. So you get to select one. Now, Joel's already committed, but he's going to give you a pitch anyways, because we like to help on the backside anyways. And we're just having this meeting after this. But Alan, why should Sadie pick you?
Yeah, like as I mentioned, I think what you've gone through, I feel like I can relate at a personal level in a lot of ways. And I'd love to be able to share my experiences with you and how I got through it. But also, I think there are a lot of connections that I potentially have that could help you grow what your organization wants to become. I'd love to learn a little bit more about those specifics, but I think the two of the personal connection that I have to your cause, as well as my external connections, could make a great partnership.
Shreya, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I have a couple things in mind on how I can help you, Sadie. So one, I can help you figure out how to balance your social media schedule. And I've, over the years, figured out a way to kind of stay consistent over that and figure out what people tend to like on social media, what the pattern should be. So I can definitely help you kind of manage that. And then I also have been working with a bunch of African organizations in Africa, as well as other foundations that are spreading awareness about cancer. So I could help connect you with them as well to kind of further your impact that way. And then the third point I have is, so I've been recognized by several presidents, including former President Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and more. And I've also had several bills passed under my name. So I can definitely help you in the political sphere as well. I know you were talking about how you've gotten a bill, you've lobbied for a bill and had that passed, which congratulations, by the way. I know from a personal standpoint, how amazing that is and how much happiness you feel, right? That you're making a difference in the political sphere. So I wanted to shout you out on that. And then the last point I have is that I also provide like food, clothing, books, all of these things through my nonprofit to kids all around the world. So I can give you ideas on how you can help these cancer patients and brighten their day, maybe in new different ways, and kind of give them different things that can help them smile. It could be like a note of encouragement. It could be some like treats, whatever it might be. And I can give you ideas on how you can do that. So yeah, looking forward to seeing who you pick.
That's going to be hard to beat there, but Joel, I'm going to let you have a little chance here.
I'm definitely not competing with that. And I think Shreya is absolutely impressive too. And I think the future is female for sure. Just amazing. Sadie, I think my word of encouragement to you is to dream big beyond awareness, because I actually think there's a lot more in there around impact and change, and having lived through this, really knowing the needs of others. So just my encouragement to you. I think I'm just absolutely in awe of what you've already done, which would be a lifelong accomplishment for most. I don't think many people ever have accomplished what you've already accomplished. So dream big, set new boundaries. Like, it's exciting, and I'm excited to watch from the sideline.
Thank you.
Well, Sadie, you've got a tough decision to make. What is your decision?
Okay, this is such a hard decision, and I want to keep in touch with all of you. You all are so amazing. But I think I'm going to go with Shreya.
Right.
But thank you all so much. This was so amazing.
Shreya, congrats. Round 2 shark moving forward. So let's go back to Michaela.
Wow, well, thank you everyone for that. So Sadie has chosen to meet with Shreya during the post-show mentoring session. So there's 2 sharks left, but only one student remains. Let's see who matches up with our final day student innovator, Brandon Griggs. But first, I have a few things to say that are super exciting. The student voice is just so incredible. Every month, #ICANHELP hosts a student voice webinar for students and adults to get ideas on projects that they can bring to their own community. Check out the events page on ICANHELP.net website to register for the May event. We wanted to give a shout out to some people. I'm not going to read the usernames, just going to call you by your name. So Rory, Emmy, Joshua, Avathon, Rory again, Izzy, Nicole. Thank you all for tuning in and staying engaged with us. We appreciate it. Remember to join us tomorrow, Friday, during the Power Hour to see all 9 of the student winners share their pitch at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So now let's hear about Brandon. Brandon Griggs founded the Hear the Youth Foundation, an organization dedicated to empowering teens to have a voice in the problems affecting them. They, not the politicians and lawyers tasked with solving them, would be the most impacted. Brandon serves as the only team member of his city's crime reduction task force, where he strongly advocates for juvenile justice reform. Welcome, Brandon, and feel free to take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brandon Griggs, and I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. It was so inspiring to hear Sadie's story, and I'm specifically going to be talking about Hear the Youth, the organization that my friends and I run. The work we do is mainly aimed at empowering teens and put them in spaces where they can truly make and use their experiences growing up in crime-ridden neighborhoods to actually make change in crime and issues like this that especially affect people of color. And so one of those initiatives that we run is empowering African-American youth in STEM. And so we are trying to get more teens of color involved in science, technology, and math, and in fields where they can make groundbreaking change, because in the field of science, we have a huge shortage of students of color, and it's really important to have diverse perspectives, whether it's curing diseases like cancer, which states have and so bravely overcome, or lymphoma. And so I'm just going to start with everyone taking a moment to close their eyes. And I want you to, in your mind, what characteristics might make up the ideal researcher, doctor, or scientist. And I just really want you to try to think about what that person looks like. Is that person smart? Are they famous? And just what do they do? And take all of these thoughts that you have and imagine them as a single individual, like a tangible person, what they look like, what they're wearing, what color their skin is. And I want you to keep that mental image to yourself, save it, and reflect on what you saw after what I'm about to show you. So the exercise we just performed was replicated with thousands of kids across the nation, representing a wide range of demographics, and they were asked to put the ideal scientist they envisioned on a piece of paper and just draw it. This is called the Draw a Scientist test. And the Journal of Child Development analyzed decades of these studies that were done over years and years, compiling the data to see how young people's perceptions of science are shaped. And so at the time, this was a really revelation, but most of the students, when they were drawing scientists, had images that showed quite a bit of homogeneity, with over 95% of the scientists drawn not being of minority or ethnic backgrounds. However, this was not what really shocked me. What was the most astounding out of all these studies is that of the African American students who participated in this experiment, the number was near 100%, with all of them drawing a scientist that looked nothing like them, with graying hair, that was old and was not African American. In other words, less than 1% of kids like me could envision themselves as a scientist, or someone that looked like themselves being a scientist. And so this group represents an interesting demographic, because not only are they representative of our nation's youth, but they're also our future educators. And the notions they have in their minds about what makes someone a scientist and what a scientist should look like, as shown through this test, will inevitably trickle down to the next generation of young people, their students. And here is a visual representation of the uniformity present among scientists drawn by students when this experiment, despite having been given to a really diverse group of students, was conducted. And so looking at these images inevitably brings the question, why is this the case? Why are these students drawing scientists that don't look like them? And where are these toxic ideas about what makes a scientist coming from? And so we know that these highly impressionable youth are largely influenced by what they see on television. And we are no stranger to criticism of television and media for not portraying scientists of color. Additionally, this creates the mindset that is detrimental to the hopes and dreams of African American youth who might have an interest in science but are discouraged because they can't see role models or people that look like themselves involved in the field. And these depictions are eventually reflected in real life. when these same young people grow up and eventually abandon the passion for research that they may have once had as a child because of these portrayals. Something which the fact that not a single African American has ever won a Nobel Peace Prize in science is a prime example of. And so this just results in a perpetual decline in the number of people of color who are currently involved in STEM fields. And the number is currently at 5%, according to the National Science Foundation. And so the irony of these disparities is that we frequently think of scientific achievement as a fair process that is judged solely by one's intellect and capabilities. We believe that if you're smart and if you're intelligent, you will make a good scientist and you will make big contributions to the world. However, the formula for success in the STEM field is actually a lot more complicated and includes many hard to define variables like privilege, access to resources like computers and research equipment, and quality education, all of which Hear the Youth has been trying to bridge to get more teens of color involved in STEM fields. To give you a really concrete example of that, not a single student in my entire high school participated in the science fair last year. And it honestly makes sense why. Contrary to popular belief, it isn't because kids where I'm from lack scientific talent. We know that that's not true. It's because many public schools in low-income neighborhoods, like where my friends and I grew up, have significantly less funding, access to labs, and the ability to encourage them to send their students to science fairs in the first place. And so this is really bad because these socioeconomic factors that we can control are limiting the most talented students from getting involved in scientific research. And many of those students are students of color. And I was one of these students. And many of the circumstances I've mentioned were true for myself and a lot of my classmates. And if you thought that these were the worst of our troubles, you would be very wrong because we had so many more things to deal with, from the ever looming threat of gun violence and crime in our neighborhood, all the way to poverty. And so when you think about being involved academically and in science in comparison to those extremely serious factors, it seems like it's not really a big deal. And so when you have so many other things going on in your life, it's that much harder to focus on academics and STEM. And it just furthers this gap that we already have going on. And I want to share with you the story of how I and how Hear the Youth overcame the obstacles that I've just mentioned, and how this actually led me and quite a few of my friends who participated in Hear the Youth ending up at Mayo Clinic today, doing research in the lab of Dr. Joy Wolfram, where I still work to this day. And to provide the positive example that we desperately lack of how it actually is possible for minorities like myself to overcome hardship and become leaders in science, technology, and math. And I say this because just a few years ago, I would have never imagined I would be giving this presentation in front of so many amazing people about the work that Hear the Youth now does. In fact, judging by the statistics, if you look at my county, Duval County in Jacksonville, we are one of Jacksonville's worst neighborhoods. And I, as a part of those statistics, should be either dead or incarcerated right now. And so while I may have managed to escape this grim fate, it still holds true for so many other kids living in Jacksonville right now. And so Hear the Youth is and reach out to them through science. And so one of the things that we do in Hear the Youth is we have our students raise their hands so that we can really gauge their circumstances and see what they're actually dealing with at home before we try to immerse them in STEM and all this curriculum, because it's so important to understand the existential factors that are affecting students' ability to pursue science, technology, and math fields. And so we just had a questionnaire to evaluate these issues, and we would ask students to keep their heads down and raise their hand if any of these things applied to them. We asked if they ever had an immediate family member in jail for a significant period of time. We'd ask if they'd ever been arrested, if they'd ever been shot at, if they'd ever felt pressured to provide money for their family, if they've ever lived with an abusive parent, or if they'd ever been detained or questioned by police. And as you can see from the answers provided by our classmates on the bottom right of the slide, these issues were not exclusive to only a few struggling students. They were true for nearly every single person in our entire class. And that was the real reason why we didn't have enough kids from our school involved in the science fair and involved in science. One of the themes that kept coming up as we were having these discussions about our circumstances and things that we were going through that affected our academic performance was students' lack of internet access. And so at only about 14 years old, these things were pretty much all I had ever known, not having access to a computer, being around all this crime and violence. And so I assumed that that was normal. And that was true for a lot of other students. And so one of the biggest things that we all found that we had in common were, one, our experiences growing up in a community where academic achievement and STEM wasn't encouraged. And two, this key theme that kept coming up of internet access. And it turned out that the reason that so many students at our school weren't doing well in their science classes wasn't because they weren't trying hard enough. And it wasn't because, as the stereotype goes, they weren't working hard and they weren't making an effort to do well in science. It was because they didn't have the resources. They didn't have the computer to actually turn in assignments, to write papers, and even do well in these classes in the first place. And so that's really where Hear the Youth comes in. We went to our very first school board meeting and we brought up these issues, and we felt that almost no one there was representative of people like me and people like my friends who live in our community and the dire issues that we were facing. And so this led to the culmination of Hear the Youth. And what we now do is we work to bridge this educational divide, especially with providing laptops and partnering with school districts to create initiatives that will engage more teens of color in science and put them in positions where they can make their voices heard and truly make a difference, because their experiences matter and they can make a big difference when they're involved in such high-powered fields. We work directly with at-risk students all throughout Jacksonville, defying stereotypes through activism and advocacy that brought us all the way to Harvard, where we lectured a class of students in their School of Education about better methods for engaging teens of color, the US Department of Justice, where we spoke about the effects of police brutality and policing tactics on students of color, and even President Obama, who many of us had never even known about or seen after we had left Jacksonville for the very first time, because this was many of our first time even getting on a plane and leaving to another state, let alone Washington, D.C. And so we did things that we could have never imagined were possible. And we met people who we could have never imagined we would have the opportunity to meet. And I'm sure you're wondering what happened to these students afterwards. And I want to tell you about one student in particular. This student was once failing nearly all of their science classes, had countless referrals from their teachers, and at one point wasn't even expected to graduate. Now that student is drawing from his personal experiences, along with their desire to give back, to give hundreds of minority students like himself a platform to receive mentorship and to speak to local leaders that have included the superintendent, school board members, and even state senators about problems like these that they face in science, technology, and math. They're now a member of the Jacksonville City Council Task Force on Safety and Crime Reduction, had the awesome opportunity to work with Harvard, and even now has a 4.0 average. That kid that I just told you about was me. And that kid that I just told you about was every single one of my friends and the people who have participated in Hear the Youth programs. And just being a part of our organization and being empowered and seeing what's possible and simply having the resources that you need to succeed is all these kids need to be driven to make a difference and make an impact in STEM fields. And that's exactly what we do. We connect them with the resources and we give them the things they need to succeed, and we empower them and we truly believe in them, because that's something that we don't see a lot in these communities, and that's what inspires them to do well. And so in conclusion, our successes in Hear the Youth were largely a result of the fact that we provide kids with a positive example of teens of color who are like them, who were defying stereotypes, who they could look up to. And Hear the Youth's mantra is to apply this concept to science. Instead of just encouraging teens of color to enter STEM fields, the best thing we can do is to provide them with concrete examples of individuals like themselves, such as me, who've done this research and who've worked at places like the Mayo Clinic, so that they can believe that this is actually possible for them as well. And although I may not have had that role model or example in my life, my friends and I, through Hear the Youth, are taking on that role so that we can lead the way for hundreds of other minority teens at my school to pursue careers in science. And I encourage you to do the same. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Brandon. Having a voice is essential to creating meaningful change, and your organization is inspiring a new generation of change makers. For anyone interested in learning more, please check out the link to Hear the Youth that we've put in the chat. I wanted to give a quick shout out to South Lakes High School, their leadership class, and educator Ruth Simmons. So now let's hear from our Sharks. Who's going to get paired up with our today's final innovator? Over to you, Tony.
Hey, Brandon, as a fellow STEM graduate, I'm a mechanical engineer myself. First one in my family to go to college on both sides of the family. So I get what you're doing, man. I love what you're doing. It's a great cause. Got to have more examples out there. Not everybody has those examples. So let's get some questions from the Sharks. Joel, how about you first?
That was absolutely impressive, Brandon. I think I just went to school in a lot of ways too, and listening through that, and I really appreciate it. Appreciate the way you told your story. Really brought me along. I walk out of that thinking, like, how can I help? What do you need? Clearly, the theme I hear out of there is resources. So resources, maybe less now on yourself individually, but for other students and people in your community. And so I guess that's the question, like, what type of resources are you needing? Where is the bottleneck in finding resources or in distributing resources? And what is it specifically that's keeping you back from reaching even more people?
Excellent. Shreya, how about you?
That was actually my question about the resources and the challenges that he's facing in what Brandon, you're seeing as has been the most effective resource for the people that you serve, and then how you can maybe, once you have figured out which one has been the most effective, how you can really scale that to greater levels.
Yeah, those are really good questions. And so to answer that, I would say that the most effective resource that we found specifically in our organization is mentoring and pairing students with people who are leaders in these STEM fields that they can look up to and who can provide them with that example that they really need to believe that they can pursue these careers and to push them into them. Another resource that we found was really helpful, like I mentioned in my presentation, was internet access, especially computers, because a lot of kids at our school do not have access to a computer or reliable access to even electricity at home. And so for them to even begin working to improve themselves and get involved in these STEM fields, we need to resolve the baseline issue of them not having access to the technology that they need to turn in assignments and get involved. So just pairing them with people who can provide them with that guidance and with that support, and also giving them the technology that they need to get there.
Two good things. Alan, what do you got for him question-wise?
Yeah, I learned a lot too. I got to echo Joel. I feel like I just went through a super enlightening class, and just thank you for sharing and doing all that research. You talked about, there's a theme in your presentation about having a lack of role models or people that, people in your community can look up to. So I just want to know personally, it's like, when you were going through all this, like, who were your role models? Like, who could you look up to? And you're sort of setting, now you're the role models for other people, but I want to know kind of who you could look up to say, like, hey, there's somebody that is something I aspire to being. I'm just curious to know who that could be.
Yeah, I think for me personally, it was definitely my mom. And that's what made me want to work hard and get involved in these technology fields, just because she always pushed me to do well academically in school, because she knew that it was a way out, essentially. And so seeing how hard she worked at her job just to support me was something that pushed me to try hard in school, because I felt like I wanted to provide the same effort while I was in school and while I was working to do those things. However, I realized that my situation isn't true for every single student of color. And so while my mom was able to provide me with the resources and things I needed to get involved and get started with my organization's work. And also just having the academic foundation to be involved in science. That's not true for so many of my peers and my friends. And so it's something that Here the Youth is trying to solve, and just providing that motivation and that mentorship that I would say my mother gave me personally.
Good stuff. So let's get into the shark battle round where Brandon, you'll get to pick one person and it's going to be out of me or Alan because Joel and Trey have already committed to previous candidates, but we'll also be able to collaborate with you in the background after these meetings if you'd like to join in. But let's hear from Joel. What would you like to do if you would like to be a participant of this, Joel?
Yeah, Brandon, so you mentioned mentorship. We have a team. We're not super huge, but I think for our team, absolutely from a mentorship standpoint, in kind of science and technology side of things, and would love to connect that way because I think that's immediate kind of need. And then also on the technology side, from a laptop perspective, those are two like basic needs that I heard that I think we could immediately apply. So not even with working with me, just in general, I'll connect up after this and set that up.
Excellent. Shreya, what do you think?
Yeah, so I have two things. One, I am also a person of color. I'm a young woman of color, so I have experienced many of the obstacles that you talked about today, which is really insightful to hear, and it's something that I know a lot of people can relate to, people who are sitting at home, and are definitely inspired now after hearing how far someone can go when they're given the correct resources and the right mentors. And so thank you for that. So I can kind of bring that perspective and understand what you're coming from. And then the other one was in terms of your mentoring idea is, so with my nonprofit, we have a tutoring and mentoring program that has involved over 1,000 tutors and tutees from around the world. So I could definitely help provide people. We have plenty of people of all ages and backgrounds who are just looking for someone, not just to get tutored by like academically, but also just someone to talk to, especially now with the pandemic, right? People aren't able to go and meet new people, but with technology, with the right resources, right, we'll be able to connect people from around the world and give them that person that they can talk to and feel comfortable with, and hopefully be a good role model too. So I would love to talk more about that if you're interested. Yeah.
Excellent. Alan, how about you?
Sure. So I can talk about in two levels where I think it would be great to work with you. One is at a personal level. I'm also a STEM graduate. I have an applied physics degree. I'm a designer now, so there's a kind of meandering path of how I got to become a designer, but I think STEM did open up a whole world of opportunities for me, and I'd love a chance to share that with you and allow you to share that with your people you're trying to reach. But as part of Riot Games, we actually have a really diverse and engaged group of people in our company that are of color, that are leveraging their STEM skills daily, and they are actually organized and reaching out into the communities all around the country, actually, to bring more people into the field. And we believe very strongly that having a diverse workforce makes our games better, makes our world better, and it makes the player experiences better. So, and I'd love to be able to leverage all that circles of experience to you and share that with you in whatever partnership we can form.
That's well said. Good stuff, Alan. So Brandon, I would say that I would bring to the table some personal mentorship for you as an individual. I've built some massive online communities, over 500,000 combined members, registered members, not followers, people that were part of the communities I've built. I know that you're building a movement, and I've got that credential background. I'm also an entrepreneur. I've built some 7- and 8-figure companies. And so I can maybe teach you how to monetize this on a very strict business model and help that scale. So you got a tough decision here, Brandon. Who do you want to talk to after this call, if you're possible? Is it going to be me or Alan?
Wow, that's a very difficult decision. If I had to choose, this person definitely mentioned scaling Here the Youth and engaging more individuals in our efforts. And so that was something that I really liked, especially getting it on a digital platform when a lot of the work we do is digital, especially in this age of coronavirus and COVID-19. So I'm going to have to go with Tony. I really appreciated his pitch and some of the things that he was suggesting. And yeah, I think that his advice as a leader and someone who's really good with connecting people and building businesses would really help us to scale and help more kids.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Brandon. I'll look forward to our conversation following this. Let's go back to Michaela.
Awesome. So exciting. So Brandon has been paired up with Tony for the post-show mentoring session. Thank you all so much, Hannah, Sadie, and Brandon, for your inspiring presentations. Best of luck to you all during your final presentations tomorrow. We've also included links to their apps and organizations in the chat for anyone who might have missed them earlier. Now I'd like to welcome Shreya Venkat to share what to expect during tomorrow's final Power Hour. She's a former Digital4Good winner and the co-founder of Nest for Us, a mission to provide volunteer and leadership opportunities to the community to make the world better through kindness. She's a freshman at Georgetown University pursuing global health studies. Shreya already has over 8 years of volunteer service under her belt and spent over 1,500 hours giving back to her community. Through 5 core programs at Nest for Us, her volunteer team of over 1,000 has contributed over $750,000 of value volunteer hours. She aspires to empower people of all ages and backgrounds to create a more compassionate and inclusive world by instilling a passion for service in their communities through random acts of kindness. Welcome, Shreya.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm so excited to be here and talk with you all. Like she said, I am an 18-year-old freshman at Georgetown University, majoring in global health. And through Nest for Us, the nonprofit that I co-founded with my sister, we have a volunteer team of over 1,250 who serve the community in a multitude of ways. And so in 2019, I had the great honor of being one of 9 individuals nationwide to be selected as a Digital4Good winner for making a positive difference through technology. And so Digital4Good was one of the best events I've ever had the privilege of being a part of, because I got an amazing opportunity to attend breakout sessions at Instagram headquarters, where I got to pitch my work with Nest for Us to corporate executives and nonprofit professionals, take part in a Shark Tank just like this one, and also present my work at Facebook headquarters during Digital4Good Power Hour. And it was so surreal to be surrounded by such influential, inspiring people. And I'm so grateful for all the continued support I've gotten from ICANHELP. So to all the winners today, please keep in touch with all of your amazing mentors, the ICANHELP team. They're just so incredible and so supportive. So shout out to ICANHELP. And then now, before you all head off to Power Hour tomorrow, and then also today connect with me and the other Sharks later today, here are a few pieces of advice I would like to share with you all based on my experiences, both as a Digital4Good winner, as well as a young nonprofit leader. So firstly, and most importantly, when you're presenting in front of us Sharks today, and also tomorrow during Power Hour, be yourself. It might sound deceivingly simple, and that's because it really is. After all, the best way to share your passion with the world is to be your own confident self and showcase your unique spirit. And that leads me to my next point. You all are winners already. You've all chosen to pursue your passion in a super meaningful way and are getting others involved in the community through creative and innovative approaches. And that itself is so special. So I know Friday's Power Hour might seem a little bit nerve-wracking, but no matter what happens, know that you have worked so hard to get where you are today. And that if you continue pursuing your dreams with an open mind, loving heart, and dedication, you'll continue doing wonders. As in terms of your presentations, be sure to talk from the heart and be authentic when you're sharing your story, which many of you did today already. From the winners that I've looked at, you guys have such amazing stories to tell. So go ahead, don't be afraid to share those stories, because that's really the best way that we all can understand you and your project and be the best support that we can be. And remember, you only have a short amount of time, so make it count. Go ahead and share your own authentic self, because that's the best version of yourself that you can be. And lastly, there is a common misconception that only big actions can make a true impact. But it's actually these small acts of kindness and positivity that make the biggest difference and ultimately transform the world for the better. Remember, everyone has a power to make a difference, regardless of how old you are and where you come from. And you all are examples right here of how, even if you're young, you can make a tremendous difference and inspire others to step up in the community. So huge shout out to all of you, all the amazing winners. I'm so excited to hear from you guys tomorrow at Power Hour. And I hope you guys get the most out of ICANHELP, out of Digital for Good that you can. So keep up the great work. And thank you so much for the opportunity again. ICANHELP to talk with everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you, Shreya. We're all looking forward to hearing more from these students tomorrow during the Power Hour. And today, to close day 3, please welcome back Joel.
Unmute. There we go. Thank you so much for having me. Hannah, Sadie, and Brandon, you are an inspiration to us all. I think the impact let's not just talk about that you are making, that you've already made is an amazing accomplishment. And I'm excited to continue to watch your careers, to watch what you're working on, and to support. As I mentioned earlier, I think I'll just leave you with a quick summary of that advice that I had given you earlier. First and foremost, take care of yourself. The world needs you. We need you. It is a better place with you doing what you are doing. And in that, in taking care of yourself, just encourage you to continue to surround yourself with people that support you, that give you energy, and that help you be the best version of yourself. Continue to focus on really building a home in a place where you are able to recharge, where you're safe. But I encourage you both in the work that you do and in the lives that you live, that you are seeking out things that are challenging you, that are pushing you to new levels, that are challenging your thinking and diverse perspectives. Not just seeking out things that are comfortable and easy, but continuing to push on for greatness and to dream big. I just mentioned this, I think above all, just be you. This was something that I think through each of your conversations today and your pitches, when it comes from the heart and it's your experience, when people hear what you've lived through and why it matters to you, no one can tell that story better than you. So thank you all. Wish you the best. And just as a quick reminder for everyone and checking out from Digital for Good, from VSCO gifting a 1-year membership to all registered attendees. So thank you all for having us, and thanks for a great day. See you all tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you again, Joel, and congratulations to today's student innovators on their wonderful presentations. Thank you to all of our viewers, keynote speakers, and our Day 3 event sponsor, Work to Be Well. We'll see you all tomorrow for our final day of the summit, kicking off at 10 a.m. Pacific time.